Well, that is the Chief Justice. Ashmit has been tracking the action in the Supreme Court. He joins us now with the latest. Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Historic judgment of the Supreme Court, long time in the making. The judgment itself was reserved in November of 2023. But nevertheless, the impact and the implications now of this verdict, Ashmit.
Well, the impact itself will grow manifold from here, given the fact that it's coming just a few months ahead of the Lok Sabha elections. But that's, of course, a different story altogether. With respect to the Supreme Court judgment, well, there were two key aspects that we heard the Chief Justice take exception to. One was the right to information of the voter. He talked about a participative democracy where the voters need to take informed decisions. And towards that end, took exception to how the electoral bond scheme placed restrictions on this right to information. In fact, the Supreme Court very clearly held that the centre has failed to demonstrate as to how the electoral bond scheme was the least restrictive mechanism. He pointed out there are other alternatives and that this needn't be the only course of action. So that's one side of the story. The other is with respect to corporate donations. Here again, we just heard the Chief Justice point out that contributions that are made by corporate entities are in the nature of business transactions, that they're looking to achieve a certain objective, that this raises the bogey of quid pro quo and therefore frowned upon. The restriction that the cap that had been placed on corporates to make donations was removed entirely under this new scheme of electoral bonds. And that is again something that the apex court has frowned upon, has held to be unconstitutional. So legally speaking, the provisions, the amendments that were made to the IT Act as well as to the RP Act, which exempted political parties from recording these contributions individually as per the donor, those provisions have been struck down. Also, provisions of the Companies Act, which, number one, lifted the cap altogether, allowed for unlimited contributions from corporate entities, has also been struck down. And importantly, the exemption that companies had been given under electoral bonds, that they're not required to register or to record the donations that they are making to political parties, also having been struck down by the apex court. So unequivocally, the electoral bond scheme, the way it stands, being told to be unconstitutional by the apex court. As far as the way forward is concerned, well, the Supreme Court has said that no further bonds are to be issued. The SBI is to share all the donor details from April of 2019 till date with the Election Commission, and the Election Commission has been directed to publish these donor details on or before 13th of March. So that's the deadline that the Election Commission as well as the State Bank will be working with. In fact, speaking of the judgment, just moments post this pronouncement by the apex court, we reached out to the top legal eagles involved in this matter, arguing for the petitioners, Prashant Bhushan, as well as Kapil Sibal. Let's in fact listen in to what they had to say.
Not only the electoral bond scheme, but also the amendment which removed the restrictions on political contributions by companies, which were that you cannot contribute more than 7.5% of your annual profit by way of political contributions. That has also been struck.
What Supreme Court says is you look at donors who donate less than 20,000, right? He said there cannot be any element of quid pro quo there. For donors who donate more than 20,000 rupees, right? And electoral bond scheme is an entirely different scheme, because those who wish to donate by check, 20,000 and more, their names will be disclosed. But those who donate through electoral bonds, their names will not be disclosed. What's the rationale for that?
Well, that is Kapil Sibal there, one of the lawyers for the petitioners in this matter. Let's shift our focus now to the day's market.